Coventry City cannot win the Premier League with their current squad. I don't think that comes as a shock to anyone, but I want to talk about what I think from an American perspective, what they need to do to get to the next level. If you're thinking, why would I listen to this guy? I don't know. This is my first time ever talking about tactics, about any sport really ever. So if you disagree, if you agree, let me know in the comments. So we know that there's been 2 signings so far this summer. We've got 2 wing backs. We've got Miguel Angel Brown. We've got Kane Kessler-Hayden. Kane Kessler-Hayden is probably going to be our starter when Milan Van Ewijk leaves. And then the left side defensively, it's unclear who is going to start, but very promising. There's potentially 3 people that could start there. I think you could just about go to any position and say that we need to upgrade or bring in more depth. So let's start here with Jack Rodon. He's our most beloved player, our best player, arguably. He's our number 10. And he had an unbelievable season last year. He was assisting, he was scoring. He was really the only reason that we were able to have a chance in those 2 playoff matches. You can see from the heat map that he tends to drift out wide and play almost like a half winger. My issue with that is that it leaves the midfield wide open. It makes it tough for whoever's in the number 9, whether it be Haji, Sims, Asante, on an island, and it makes it hard to create for themselves. We saw that in the playoff matches. The only offense that we were seeing was putting it down the wing and putting a through ball, or excuse me, putting a cross into the box and hoping that someone got on the end of it. That's how Mason Clark scored. That's how Rodon scored. Clearly that ended up coming back to haunt us. Now, that's not all bad. I'm not saying that he's a bad player, but you got to look at who else is in the midfield, and then it makes you really start to think. So let's look at Matt Grimes, player that we brought in last January, who probably ended up being the biggest difference maker. He had some very good ratings. He scored a couple goals, but I want to look at his heat map now. So he really is like a center half. He drops back. He almost is sitting in between the 2 center backs to help support them because sometimes they can be vulnerable. We saw it in the playoffs on counterattacks. Mayenda and Isidore just had too much pace for, our back line, and it came back to haunt us. So he tends to sit back, and he's not going to give you too much offense, and that's fine, but you have to be aware of that. So you've got 2 players on opposite ends of the spectrum. You've got Matt Grimes, true number 6, holding defensive midfielder / center half. He's going to sit back. He's going to slow down the play. He's going to make sure that the counterattacks don't happen. You've got Rodon, who's the attacking player. He's going to drift out wide. He's going to put the ball to the winger. He's going to then get back in the box and score goals. But then you have such a huge gap in the middle of the pitch, and that is definitely what I think can be our demise. And like I said, there's other positions that need to be filled, but I personally think this is the most important and the most pivotal position this offseason. Whether it be Sheaf, whether it be Torp, whether it be someone brought in, we need someone there who can put in a good final ball, but can also go back and play defense when needed. Maybe a more attacking-minded player, but not someone who has ego and who's going to stay forward. Someone that doesn't mind tracking back. Like, we need the work rate of Sakamoto, and we need someone that has like passing ability, through ball ability of like Rodon. So who is that going to be? Now, the first one that comes to my mind is Victor Torp. We obviously lost him for the last couple of months of the season. He is back now. He is getting back up to speed. He was on a great run of form before his injury. He had 2 goals against Stoke. He had 2 beautiful through ball assists to Haji Wright in that hat-trick game against Sunderland. Unfortunately, that game didn't come in the playoffs, but you look at his heat map from last year, he's definitely a more true midfielder. He definitely gets around. He does even look a little weak down the center, but, as a number 8, we're not necessarily expecting you to play in that attacking mid role. That's where Rodon plays. But then when Rodon drifts out, it's his opportunity to step up and get into that position, but not too forward that he then leaves us vulnerable on the attack. The good thing that I will talk about is this absolute beast right here, Sakamoto. He does a lot of defensive work as a winger, probably more than I've ever seen anyone play. You can honestly see it right here in the heat map where he tends to just drift back a lot. I know in the back half of the season, Van Ewijk was getting let out to dry a decent amount of times, and he was coming back and he was making a tackle. He was slowing a player down, which then allowed Van Ewijk to catch up and make something happen. So that is helpful, but that's not important. Let's look at the lineup in the first game of the playoff at the CBS against Sunderland. We had Brandon Thomas Asante up top. We had Haji Wright on the wing, Sakamoto on the wing, and then pretty much the A squad right here, Sheaf and Grimes as the holding defensive mids, Rodon in the middle, and then, pretty standard back line that we're seeing. The lineup going into next season is probably going to be very similar to this. I think the differences we'll see is instead of Wright being on the wing, he's going to be up top, and then Efron Mason Clark is going to be on the left wing. If Rodon is moving forward and he is coming into these pockets of spaces, you can kind of see the indent on the pitch right there. So Rodon is shifting out wide where Wright is, where Sakamoto is. Sakamoto and Mason Clark are pushing up. That leaves this central area so wide open. Grimes is going to shift back here to make sure that he has coverage for Thomas, Kitching, whoever's in the back, Banks, Bidwell. And then that leaves our wild card right here. Sheaf, or is it Torp, or is it someone new? Are they able to do enough to cover the midfield defensively and also stand there, be someone who can help hold up play, help build up play, because obviously we know Coventry are going to hold possession. That's what Frank has done with all their teams. They're one of the powerhouses of the championship. They're going to be in control of the matches a lot of time. So is that number 8? Are they going to be able to carry the load? Are they going to be able to put through balls in? And are we going to be able to score goals that are not from crosses? I think that is the pivotal moment of the season. And I think that is the difference between them being a playoff team and them being an automatic bid for a promotion team. There's a lot of wild cards this year. Birmingham City, Wrexham are spending like crazy. QPR has signed a lot of players. Ipswich have a super team that, all have Premier League experience. But I think there's a chance here. I think that there's definitely a decent amount more signings that need to come in. I would start with that number 8. And on top of that, I would look to get a keeper. I'd look to get another center back. I would look to add depth to the attack, specifically on the wings. Maybe one of our 3 strikers will depart. I don't see more than one. If anything, maybe Thomas Asante. I don't think you get much for Sims. But like I said, that's just my thoughts on it. There could be other underlying issues I'm missing. If there are, why don't you let me know down in the comments? But I'm open to debate with anyone about this. So let me know if you know someone who could fill that number 8 role good. Or if there's just someone else that you would like to see brought in. I'd mentioned Diego Luna. I think he's probably out of our price range, but who knows? So if you made it to the end, thank you. Like, comment, and subscribe. Tons of Coventry City, tons of championship content coming on the channel this season. And peace.